AI doesn't usually fail because the model is weak. It fails because it lands inside an organization that wasn't architected for accelerated decision making. What I am increasingly thinking about is how the AI patterns will behave inside a 200 to 400 person Singapore-headquartered regional organization. Not a startup, not a multinational. That mid-market layer in between. If I map what I'm seeing technically onto that environment, here's what I believe will shift in the first 12 months. And it's not what most people expect. First of all, let's define the company. A Singapore-headquartered regional operations in Manila, Indonesia, and Vietnam, with hybrid cloud, which is usually Microsoft but sometimes AWS, a customized ERP platform, a CRM that is partially adopted, some workflows that are automated, and IT partly outsourced. Finance is centralized, compliance awareness present, but not enterprise grade. That structure matters because AI doesn't enter a clean stack. It enters layered systems with historical decisions embedded everywhere. That's where the interesting behavior starts. Technically, AI reduces the time between signal and action. An invoice comes in, it gets classified. A support ticket arrives, it gets triaged. A document appears, it gets summarized. A lead enters a system, and it gets scored. Before AI, those moments required human interpretation. Now the interpretation layer sits inside the workflow. On paper, this looks like productivity, but operationally, it changes where decisions live. In a 300-person company, authority is often semi-formal. Managers rely on experience. Operators escalate when they are unsure. When AI embeds into workflows, the default action becomes automated. That means fewer micro decisions are visible. Technically, this works beautifully, but behaviorally, it redistributes responsibility. If a finance classification is wrong, is that an operator error or a system configuration issue, or is it a model behavior issue? Mid-market organizations are not always clear on model ownership. So the first shift is not speed, it's an accountability diffusion. AI systems don't create new data. They traverse existing data faster and more broadly. That exposes boundary design. In a Singapore-headquartered regional organization, data often flows across legal entities. Customer data in Indonesia, finance consolidated in Singapore, with shared services sat in Malaysia. Historically, these flows have been tolerated, but AI introduces cross-system queries at scale. Suddenly, these questions appear. Is that dataset allowed to be processed outside its original jurisdiction? Is the vendor inference layer logging prompts? Is internal data segmented by role or simply accessible by convenience? In smaller companies, trust fills structural gaps. AI reduces friction, which means it tests assumptions faster. You discover whether your access control model was designed or merely inherited. That's not a compliance panic scenario, it's a maturity mirror. Traditional IT cost is relatively stable. Infrastructure, licenses, predictable renewals. AI cost behaves differently. Consumption-based APIs, embedded AI inside SaaS tools, workflow triggers multiplying inference calls, token usage scaling invisibly. The individual cost lines look small, but behaviorally, AI spreads. In a 300-person organization, experimentation often starts in pockets. Marketing adopts something, operations trials automation, finance enables a feature. Without central observability, usage compounds quietly. Boards don't react well to unexplained variability. Not because they resist innovation, but because unpredictability erodes confidence. So the third shift isn't overspend, it's cost opacity. And opacity is a governance issue, not a finance one. Large enterprises could absorb governance overhead. Startups tolerate the chaos. A 300-person regional organization sits in a more delicate position. Complex enough to require structure, lean enough to resist bureaucracy, And AI amplifies both forces. It rewards speeds, but it punishes ambiguity. And mid-market firms often operate on implicit coordination. AI systems prefer explicit architecture. That tension shows up within around 12 months. Not dramatically, but incrementally. Decision placement shifts, data boundaries are questioned, and cost behavior becomes probabilistic. None of these are failures. They're architected signals. So in closing, AI does not disrupt a 300-person Singapore company overnight. It reveals which systems were loosely designed, and if I were stepping into a fractional CTO role in that environment, I wouldn't begin with model selection. I would examine where the decisions are made, how access is controlled, and how cost is observed. Because AI accelerates whatever maturity level already exists. The organizations that handle it well won't necessarily have better models. They'll have clearer control architecture. And that's a leadership conversation, not a tooling one.